Hello and welcome to Just Ride Bikes. I'm David and this is a brand new Winspace SLC 3. It's their newest model, their lightest road bike so far, and I've been riding it for about 5 weeks now and racking up the miles on my local roads here in the Cotswolds. And today I'll share my thoughts on how the bike rides and performs and how it compares to a Giant TCR Advanced Pro, which for me is a bike to compare this one to for 3 reasons. The first one is a similarity in the geometry and the racy intentions of the bike. The second is the price, which we'll talk about in a minute. And the third is the ambition of the company, because Winspace, like Giant, began life as a manufacturer for more familiar Western brands. They have the manufacturing expertise and capability, but like Giant back in the 80s, they've decided to launch their own brand and manufacture their own frames under their own name, Winspace. And the other reason for comparing to Giant is on the price, because right now the frame retails for just under $1,800, which is a price that includes all fees and taxes, I'm told, by Winspace, and that translates to about £1,400 here in the UK right now. And for comparison, a brand new 2025 Giant TCR Advanced Pro disc retails for £2,000 in the UK right now. So Winspace does represent a big saving. Just don't mention the fact you can buy the old TCR Advanced on sale right now for just over £1,400. And for a frame that weighs about 800 grams for a size large or sub 700 grams claimed for a size medium with no paint, that's pretty good. It's a very lightweight frame for the money. And this build here with a Shimano Ultegra Di2 group set and these crazy lightweight 1200 gram carbon spoked elite wheels with no pedals, size large, is 6.66 kilos on my scales, which is very good for a bike with a second tier group set. And to put that weight in some sort of context, it's about the same as the Villiers Verticale SLR, also a climbing lightweight bike, but with Dura-Race Di2, and a smidgen lighter than a Tarmac SL8, again with a Dura-Race Di2 group set, but with deeper section wheels on that bike. And it's a pretty good looking bike, not the most visually exciting. And what I do like are 2 things, and similar to the 51 Seeker, in that we have a one-piece aero handlebar up front. The hoses are inside with a normal round steering tube. You've got these split spacers to slam the stem if you want. So aero up front. Then out back, we have a normal round seat post, 27.2, and this, an external seat clamp. I love that so much. I'd happily have all my bikes with a round seat post because it means you're not tied into a bespoke D-shaped profile. You can swap the seat post for another one, upgrade it. And one other detail that we are seeing become very popular, the covered over through axle openings. So a nightmare to fit to a smart trainer in the winter, probably, unless you can get an adapter, but it looks very clean. I do like that. That's a trend. I don't mind actually, other than the downside of smart trainer compatibility. But you know, I ride outside, not inside, so not a problem for me. Now, one potential downer, depending on your viewpoint of bottom bracket standards, is we have I think it's a PF86 bottom bracket, so press fit. I've not had any issues during testing. This isn't a long-term test. So if you own a Winspace, you've been riding a Winspace for the last few years, let them know your experience of their bottom brackets are. Have they started creaking, squeaking? Let me know by dropping a comment down below. So it's a pretty solid looking bike for the money, lots of cool details. But how does it ride? Well, in a minute, you'll join me halfway through my loop and we'll put the bike through its paces and I share my experience of riding the bike and how it compares to the Giant TCR Advanced Pro. Now, a quick break to tell you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a professional looking website in minutes. No longer do you have to be a coding expert to build a slick website, because Squarespace does all the hard work for you. You can either choose from a huge library of templates and then customize it using a drag and drop interface to suit your needs, dragging different tools and plugins and change the layouts and color scheme as you want, or use AI, simply answer a few questions and hey presto, a website is made bespoke for your very needs. Whether you need a website to show off your amazing bike photos, run an online store to sell cool bike products, start a newsletter, share your social media posts, whatever you want to do, there's a website solution for you on Squarespace. And even better, you try it before you buy it with a free trial using the link down below in the description. And if you enjoy it, there's 10% of your first purchase of a website or domain name using my code on screen right now. Okay. Okie dokie, here we go. You join me halfway through my ride today. And this is actually my first ride on a Winspace. Never been on one before. So when I arrived, I had no idea what to expect. And I can't really talk about the stiffness improvements over the older SLC 2 model, which they claim is better on the bike in the head tube and the bottom bracket, but I can of course compare to other more well-known race bikes like the giant TCR Advanced Pro and models from Specialized, Trek and Canyon and so on. And my main takeaway is that it rides very nicely indeed. It's a very pleasant bike and doesn't do anything quirky or crazy at all. And perhaps I shouldn't be surprised the Winspace rides so well and hasn't really caused me any issues in the time I've been riding it, because, well, carbon road bikes are very evolved these days. The standards have mostly settled down, and carbon frame manufacturing isn't exactly rocket science, is it? We all know how it works. The real challenge is in quality control and making sure products come out the factory as they should. So no surprise the bike rides very well. Winspace clearly have the expertise and experience to make a good product, and by imitating the geometry of the TCR, the bike does ride very nicely. Now I've been riding this bike for over 4 weeks, 5 weeks, used it for local chain gang, hilly rides, lunchtime rides, Sunday rides, all that stuff to really get to know the bike and swap wheels and different tyres, different saddles as well, to really get to know the bike. But this is definitely not a long-term test. So when it comes to reliability and long-term durability, it's a little difficult for me to assess things like bottom brackets and other potential issues. So if you do own a Winspace, if you're riding a Winspace for the last few years, then do let me know what your experience of that bike is like by dropping a comment down below. I'd love to hear how you've been getting on with a Winspace in a longer term period than my experience with the bike so far. Now the big downside with buying something like a Winspace is they don't offer full complete bikes, but thankfully they sent me a complete bike to allow me to test it without building a frame set myself. And the parts on the bike are very nice indeed. The Shimano Ultegra Di2 group set, well, it works really well. No issues at all. Nice reliable shifting, long running battery life, all the stuff we know. But that said, the more I ride the new SRAM Red on my 51 Seeker, the more I think SRAM might have definitely taken the crown from a Shimano when it comes to ergonomics in the hoods and braking performance. So Shimano definitely has some catch up to do to bring Di2 up to the level that SRAM are at now. But hopefully we'll see something new and exciting from Shimano in the near future. And the company's own aero handlebar stem is a nice place to put your hands, nicely shaped along the tops. They sweat forward into the hoods, nice shaped drops. You can choose different stem lengths and different width handlebars as well. And we have a normal round steering tube with a cable routing around the headset bearings, and you can slam the stem as well with those interlocking spacers. And if I bought the bike, owned the bike, I would definitely slam it. Then the real reason that this bike is so damn lightweight are the wheels. They weigh about 1,200 grams, so super lightweight indeed, and they definitely contribute to the low overall weight of the bike and the way it climbs, and it climbs extremely well. Anything below 7 kilos is going to do very well on the climbs. Anything below 8 to 9 kilos, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things, isn't really going to hold you back on the climbs. So the bike does climb well, and it's definitely up there with more expensively spec bikes like a Tarmac SL8, the Video Verticale SLR. So yeah, very impressive weight for the specification, and a lot of that down to the wheels, which do work really nicely. They're shod in Michelin tyres, which I'm very impressed with Ride Now TPU inner tubes. The tyres, really impressive actually, definitely up there, I reckon, with a Conti GP 5000S TR, and they are 28mm wide, so plenty of comfort. So this is definitely a race bike, the geometry says as much, but I'm really impressed with how smooth the bike rides. We have, of course, a round seat post, plenty of seat posts extended, a nice comfy saddle and wide tyres at low pressures. And the smoothness on some of my rougher roads I use for testing bikes is really good. It's definitely up to the level I would expect of a modern race bike in 2024, and comparable to a TCR, a Tarmac, that Video Verticale and other bikes in the category. So yeah, Winspace have built a very smooth riding bike indeed. And although it's not an endurance bike, if you want a race bike geo, but you want more comfort, then this bike definitely delivers that combination of speed and comfort, which I think many of us do seek in a race bike these days. For those of us not racing, but love the fit of a race bike, but don't want to finish a ride in bits. I did a chain gang the other day, so racing around the local roads at 40k an hour plus, and the bike is definitely responding well to that very energetic riding when I'm putting out as much power as I can muster, which is not much, but the bike definitely worked well. Not as good on the flatter sections as the Canyon Air Road I've been riding for obvious reasons. It's not an aero bike, but on some of the climbs where you're out of the saddle and really smashing out as much power as you can, the bike worked well then. So for riding hilly terrain, mountains, up and down the Cotswolds, hills, the bike is a perfect partner for that style of riding, especially with the wheels. But you could put some aero wheels in for a bit more flat road speed. But of course, speed ultimately comes down to how hard you push on the pedals, doesn't it? Yes, aero, marginal gains, all helps, but really, at the end of the day, it's about your legs and your lungs and your heart doing the talking. If you want that all-round performance, good comfort, pretty low weight, and the potential to go lighter as well, if you're a Dura-Race or SRAM Red in here, you can probably get down to low 6 kilos, which is pretty impressive given the price of the bike. So yeah, nice all-round package. In my time on the bike so far, I've only had one issue, so let me pull over. So the only issue I've had so far actually happened this morning before filming. I charged the group set before the ride, so the rear gears were working fine, but the front derailleur wasn't working, it wasn't shifting for some reason. And when I stopped to look, you can see it's loose. So what's actually happened is the mount onto the frame is loose, which hopefully you can see there. And that meant the wire into the back of the mechanism had come loose as well. That's not ideal. Now, I guess that's just a build issue, probably not enough quality control, or maybe not enough Loctite on the bolts. Now, the issue with that is if you're mechanically minded, like many of you are, it's an easy fix. And if there are problems with the actual mount onto the frame, which I'll find out when I take it off, then you have to go through the Winspace channels to get that resolved. And in the UK, I think they do have local, they have a few shops, 3 shops, so you can get that fixed, hopefully. But if you're in a country where there's no local Winspace office and there is an issue with the frame, and that is a bigger issue, perhaps, potentially, I'm not saying it is, then it would have to go back to Winspace in China and weeks of delay. But if it was a giant TCR and that happened, just pop down to your local giant dealer and hopefully the mechanics there would sort it out and get you up and running and fixed, hopefully in no delay at all. So that does highlight the potential risk of buying a Winspace. I'm not saying it is going to be a bigger issue, but just highlighting that. If I have to share that, it's happened, I can't not mention it. Yeah, but that aside, it's all been hunky-dory. So I'm going to head back and then wrap up the review of the new bike. So should you buy the new Winspace SLC 3 or avoid it? Well, based on the price, it's definitely cheaper. There's no denying that. And the ride performance is very good. I am impressed with how the bike rides. It doesn't ride better than a Giant, but it rides as well as a Giant. Similar handling, steering responsiveness. It's low weight for the money as well, and it doesn't look too bad, and there are some details I really like. But the issue for me is the potential friction in buying a Winspace or other Chinese brand. In most cases, you're buying direct from China, so there's a possible extra cost at customs and a delay or the time it takes for a frame to arrive, versus going to your local dealer and walking out with a new Giant or a Trek or a Specialized. That convenience is hard to beat. And Giant offers a lifetime warranty versus 3 years on this, which definitely could be a factor for you as well. So there are some pros and cons to the bike for sure, and that list of pros and cons and their weighting depends on your viewpoint. You might be happy buying this bike and waiting for it to arrive and building it yourself, but you might be happy just going to your local Giant dealer and buying a Giant. And I don't want to sound like a Giant fanboy, just trying to be honest and open and unbiased and try and present both sides of the argument, because I like the bike, it rides really well. Because if they can make it easier to buy the bike, the frame, in your local market and still offer that low price, then the future is definitely bright for Winspace, and the SLC 3 could be a bike on your shopping list in no time at all. Anyway, hopefully the review of the new bike has been useful if you're in the market for a new bike, and if you want to see a review of the Giant, which I mentioned a fair few times, then watch the video review up here, and of course don't forget to subscribe by hitting the button right here. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.